Welcome to an introduction to the immunizations in 8.3. In 8.3, the immunization template will no longer be available. All immunizations will be entered into NextGen, and they will have to be done through the Orders module. Okay, today's agenda will focus on workflow of the immunizations. So, today we are going to review the Orders module, some of the settings in it, setting your own personal preferences for the default view, learning the chart view and the recommendation view, create and document an immunization order, sending a patient's immunizations information to a registry, entering historical immunizations for a patient, setting vaccination exclusions for a patient, and notification of new vaccines and where to send those. Today, I will not be reviewing PowerPoint presentations. We will do all of this within the NextGen system. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open NextGen. And as you can see here, here at the top, we have our patient information bar. This is a bit different than what it is that you're currently seeing in just 5.8. When you upgrade to 8.3, all the new functionalities that were in 5.8 now become a little bit better and work much more integrated with the EHR side of things. You'll see here at the top, you now have your same PHI log, your appointments, demographics, but you now also have your sticky note referring doctor, HIPAA, advanced directives, and screening summary. The functionalities that were previously there, such as viewing the patient's diagnoses, the medications, allergies, and problems, that information is still there, as well as the patient's demographic information, MRN, insurance, and whether the patient is or isn't enrolled in NextMD. Your alerts option is now here underneath your patient's profile picture. If you ever see this alerts in red, you should always click on it. There is something in the alerts that you should take note of. The patient could have been dismissed from a practice. This is where this information will be put in at. If your patient's a drug seeker, if your patient happens to be maybe deaf or blind or mute, that information is put in here as well. So this is a good place to always go. If it's ever red, you should always click on it to see what the alert is before proceeding with your visit. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to create a new encounter just because we can work from that today. What we'll do now is we'll go down here to the Orders module. You're used to these test tubes because you have previously been using them to view patient lab results. Okay, so now when I open it up, you'll notice that instead of it opening up excuse me, to the lab results screen or to the orders screen, you now see a tab at the top called Immunizations. The Immunizations has a couple of different views that we'll be reviewing in just a moment. This view that we see is the chart view. It gives me a listing of all the patients' immunizations and their current status, the dose that they've received, and the date that they received it. All right, so let's do a couple of things. Let's start here at the top, and let's discuss the tabs. The Results tab, you're very familiar with. This is where all of your lab results are dumped into. The Orders tab, this shows you all of your orders for your patient. So this is going to now, it shows you if you've sent orders to like LabCorp, Central, Centera. Now you're also going to see included in here the VIIS. That's our registry for immunizations, because we will now have the ability to upload the immunizations to the Virginia registry. Okay. You will also notice here it will give you the description of the immunization. Okay, so now we're going to hop over here to the immunization tab. You'll see the immunizations here on the left, again the status, and the different dosage. Now here at the top where it says New Order, this we can click on to create a new order for our patient for an immunization. We'll get into that in just a little bit. The refresh option allows you to refresh the screen to update any orders that could have been placed by you or another user while having this particular template open. So if you have the template open and maybe a nurse beside you placed an order for an immunization, because it doesn't update automatically, it doesn't refresh automatically, you would have to manually refresh it to see the work that she has performed in the chart while you were in it at the same time. The print function, this allows you to print off the immunization record or the immunization summary. You also have the option, if you ever see one of these little drop-down arrows, you can select it and you can do a print preview. You can also fax the immunization summary. So if you had someone call, maybe your patient had gone to the emergency room or was at another physician's office and they needed a copy of the immunization summary, maybe a school, you could always open this and click fax and just fax directly from here. So you no longer have to generate the immunization record, find it in their chart, and then go to your custom fax and print option and do it from there. You can now just fax it directly from here. The historical option, it allows you to record historical immunization data on patients. So if your patient showed up to your office as a new patient and previously maybe lived in a different state and brought their immunization record with them, you now don't have a template specific to previous immunizations. You would put that all here in the screen, and we will be demonstrating that here in just a little bit. You have an exclusion option. You're able to set exclusions for your patients, maybe patients who are pregnant, and you want to exclude them for a particular period of time for a certain immunization. You could use this functionality so it wasn't showing that they were due for the immunization for their entire pregnancy. You have an option to show a list of web links, and the web links will allow you to go out to the web and obtain resourceful information pertaining to your immunizations. Again, here's an option for a drop-down arrow, which I clicked on, and you have your VA ERS, your travel schedule, catch-up, and adult immunization schedule. Again, if you select one of these, it will take you out to the web to obtain the information that you're requesting. Next item we'll review is to this checkbox here where it says Show Ages Given. You're able to select this, and you'll notice underneath the dose, it now changes from a date format to an age format. So it'll tell you the age of the patient when that particular immunization was given. The next item we'll review is the exceptions. This will show you any immunization that has been set for an exception. You'll notice here in the parentheses, we are at a 0 status, so we have no exceptions for this particular patient. If they did, we could select it and it would show the exceptions. The pending, it would then show only the immunizations that are sitting at a pending status. We could select it, and there you'll see. You'll also see here in the parentheses, it gives us a number, and that is the number of immunizations that are currently pending for the patient. Your error only, if you had created some immunizations that you ended up having to mark as an error, maybe you put them in, you never want to really delete them from the record. So you could just simply go in and just say that, oh, I made an error, let me put that in as an error, and then it would only show you if somebody wanted to open this up and say, you know, see that there was like 3, maybe this is 3 in this parentheses, you could then see the amount of errors that were created on this particular patient. Now we'll move down here to the chart and the recommendation view. The chart view will show you what immunizations the patient has had and when they are due for additional ones. This is the view that we're looking at right now. This is the chart view. The recommendation view is, it shows you when the patient is due for certain immunizations per the CDC. So the items in yellow will show as due, and the white ones are items that have been completed. So this particular patient, yes, they're current on their Hep B, but it also shows that the yellow isn't particular to a patient. It is just particular to the CDC recommendations. So it'll show you that the Hep B is due between patients who are 1 to 2 months, 6 months, 12 months, 15 months, from 6 months to 18 months. So this is a nice feature because you're able to simply click on it and you're able to see the recommendations from the CDC. So maybe your patient is not within a certain age frame. You could open this up and say, you know what, let me just double check because it doesn't show that they've had an immunization. Is, said maybe like a pending status. I need to click this and see when what the recommendations are from the CDC as to when this immunization should be given. So this is a pretty nice feature, which I think is really great. Okay, so now what we're going to do is enter a historical vaccination. So, well, actually I'm going to revert back for a second and I'm going to show you how when you click on something in this screen, like let's say you're in the chart view and I'm interested in seeing the DTaP for the patient that was given on 12/6 of 2010, the first dose. I wanted to see who administered this immunization. It then kind of gives you more details. It shows you the vaccine, the CPT code that was attached to it, that it was at a status of completed, so it was given at this office, who administered it, the date and time, the lot number, expiration date, manufacturer. This is a nice feature, which I really like, just because it's able to give you detailed information that you may need to refer back to and see at some point. All right, so let's now go ahead and hop into the historical vaccinations. You'll notice here at the top when you open the screen, first thing you notice is the registry. If we had multiple registries in the state of Virginia that we had to report these immunizations to, they would be listed in this drop-down box. Currently, we only report to the VIIS. You'll also have tabs. You have a pediatrics, adult, by category, this order, search all, check all, and uncheck all. The pediatrics will give you the default view of what is due for a patient who is a pediatric patient. So if they fall between the ages of 0 to 18, it's going to show you what the pediatric view is. You'll notice it did automatically default the pediatric view based on the fact that my patient is 4 years and 6 months of age. If I wanted to view the adult vaccinations, I could simply click adult and it would give me the adult vaccinations. By category, this is a nice feature because we have it set up so that if your patient is coming in for a well-child visit and you don't want to have to select certain vaccinations from the pediatrics view, you can simply click on by category, open up, okay, my patient is 4 to 6 years, what are the vaccinations that they're due for today? So this will show you this as well. It's also nice because next to the immunization, you will now see the CPT. And a lot of people are very familiar with the CPT as they have to associate that to what vaccination they're giving the patient. There's an option that says this order. What would happen is sometimes if an immunization order was placed during the visit and you needed to come out, maybe the physician ordered it and wants the nurse to administer it, you could always simply click this order and it would show you the vaccinations that were ordered this visit. The search all feature allows you to simply search for a vaccination. So you can search by vaccine name, by CVX code, CPT4 code, or CPT4 description. So let's say I wanted to search for influenza. I could free text that in here. Click on find, and you'll notice all the different influenzas that were in our system. There's my CPT codes, and I could pull these up. Okay, so now, cancel. The feature that says check all, this would allow you, if you had all this open, and let's say you wanted to order all of these immunizations for your patient, you could simply click Check All. It would mark all of the immunizations. Now you're putting in the historical information on all of these. So that way you don't have to select one at a time. You could just select all of them and then go down and add that historical data. If you make a mistake and hit Check All and you want to remove that, you can just simply click Uncheck and it will take those orders off. If you wanted to place an order and I selected Check All and I entered the information, but I didn't really want to I entered this by mistake, you could highlight the row, select Delete, and it would remove that row from your grid at the bottom. All right, so now what we want to do is go ahead and let's uncheck. I want to enter a historical data on, let's say, the MMR. So I'm going to select that MMR box, and you'll notice here at the bottom it automatically drops down here into this grid box. I find out the month that the patient had it done, maybe the day and the year. Currently, the way this functions in our version that we're working in, you have to put a month, day, and year. It forces you to. You don't have the ability to say it was January of 2013. You have to put January and a date. You no longer have to do that, which is kind of nice, because what you could do is simply select maybe the year. If your patient knew it was in 2013 but wasn't familiar with the year, you could simply select the unknown and then put just the year. And it would show up as just 2013 with a month and day of unknown. If you have the lot number information, if that happens to be maybe on the source that you're looking at, whether it be the written record from the previous physician or an immunization record that they got from the health department, and it didn't include the lot number, you could in fact put that information in here. The source information, you have birth certificate, other provider, other registry, parents recall, parents written record, public agency, school record, and source unspecified. Please note we cannot add to this source drop-down list. These are items that are listed at the registry. If we put something into this drop-down list and the registry doesn't have that option on file, it could mess up the way that the vaccinations are sent to the registry. So we don't want to cause any disruption in the way that we send them and the way that they receive them. So just to let you know, nothing can be added to the source drop-down list. One of the things that we currently have that I don't see listed here is patient's written record. So if you have an adult come in and they want to provide to you their written record, that option is not in here. It's just the parent's written record. So what we have recommended is if the patient comes in with a written record because they're an adult, what I would suggest that you do is simply click on Other Provider, because that information is in fact provided from another physician's office or another health department. All right, if you wanted to put some comments associated to this, you could do so. It's totally up to you. At this point, because you're entering historical data, if you wanted to click Save and Send, this would then save all the vaccines that you have put in for the patient's historical data, and it would send it to the registry that we have selected here at the top. If you just simply click Save All, it would just save all the vaccinations that you've put in as historical data. It would update the grid, but it would then close the screen. If you don't want to save any of the data that you have now put in, you can simply click Cancel and it will close this form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on Save and Send. It's now uploaded that information and sent it to the patient's registry for the state of Virginia, and you'll notice it's now updated my MMR. There's nothing in my month and there's nothing in my day field, because remember we left those areas blank, but it did in fact bring in a year, so it put that information in here. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to go in and we are going to place an order for a new vaccine. So we're going to click on New Order. Now this is all going to work based on the workflow in your office. If your physicians happen to be a physician that come out of the room and they verbally tell you they would like you to order a vaccine for a patient, or maybe this patient in room 1 needs X, Y, and Z, and they verbally tell you that, you do have the ability as the clinical staff to go in and mark that that was a verbal order. And that way it kind of protects everyone involved. That way it doesn't look like you're just putting these orders in without a physician or a supervising physician telling you to do so. So this is a nice little feature as well. You'll notice at the top you do have your registry here listed. If you are a site that participates with the Vaccines for Children, which is VFC, we can go ahead and we can put in reasons. So if it is a vaccine for children that you're administering and maybe they need a reason, maybe this particular patient wasn't eligible for VFC, you could simply click, not VFC eligible. But that reason will be applied to the vaccine when you order it. If you're a site that utilizes a funding source, which I don't think any of us do, but should you be a site that does that, you do have the ability to put your funding source in here as well. Here at the top, you have your web links that you can go out to the web and look up information. And remember, they were the VA ERS, travel, catch-up, and adult immunization schedules. All right, so here you can, if you wanted to select a diagnosis, you could do so. You'll notice that upon opening the vaccine order, the select diagnosis box didn't automatically appear. This option you actually had to put in. You don't have to worry about this because most of your vaccines are automatically going to be associated to the diagnosis in which you used to bill, especially like your well child, your flus. If there was something out of the ordinary that you needed to attach to that vaccine, feel free to come in here to select diagnosis, and you can, this is all the patient's diagnoses. Okay, this is their ongoing diagnosis. If you wanted to maybe search for one, you could click search all, and it would give you that diagnosis search engine that you could go out and search your diagnoses for. If you wanted to just maybe do today's, you could check, and if you'd already done the visit and applied an assessment to the visit, this would then mark all of those assessments applied to today's visit. But we're not going to worry about the diagnoses part, especially on the immunizations, because 9 times out of 10, your immunizations are given for pretty much the same reasons each time. So we're going to order a DTaP for this patient. You'll notice as I'm getting ready to check this, here at the top where it says younger than 7, it also gives me the CPT code. So if I wanted to just verify that this is the correct DTaP for the patient, I could simply say, look at my sheet or look at whatever, I have on file that we just want to make sure that the CPT code is correct. So now I'm going to select the DTaP. It's now going to say you need to review your patient's allergies. So you have the neomycin, neomycin, egg, latex, and gelatin. If your patient is allergic to any of these things, you can select yes, but if they're not, you need to select no. Here it will give you a listing of the patient's existing allergies. You do have the ability to resolve them here if you want to. You can also include a reaction here. If you wanted to put in a comment, you could do that as well. So we're going to go ahead and select no for all of these items. And I'm going to click save, because what this will now do is save the fact that the patient isn't allergic to any of these. You'll now notice that the immunization that I ordered up here drops down into this location. It also automatically associates that diagnosis code that I was telling you about. It associates that diagnosis code to the immunization. If you hover over it, it will give you the description of the diagnosis code, which I think is pretty nice. This is the need for prophylactic vaccination and inoculation. So it's kind of nice because if you have like maybe 6 vaccines, you can hover over them and actually read what the CPT or ICD-9 description is. All right, so if your physician happens to counsel the patient, you can select the counsel option. Once you do select this, it will indicate that the patient has been counseled for this vaccine, and it will change the code, because I believe that this does, you can bill a little bit differently when you've had to counsel a patient on a vaccine. All right, but we're not going to do that. If you have accidentally maybe put a vaccine down here and you didn't mean to click the box, you could highlight it and click delete, and it would remove it from this grid. Right now, I want to go ahead and I want to check the interactions. So, depending on your workflow in the office, if a physician was to come in here and select this, what they could simply do is come here, select the vaccines that they want for the patient, and they could click Save and Task. What this would do is it would save the changes that you've made, and it would send a task to a work group. So if you have like maybe 3 nurses that are all working to, do vaccines, are all working for you, you could actually send that task to the work group. You cannot send a task to an individual from here. It has to be a work group. So if you need to have that work group set up, you need to have someone contact help@tpmgpc.com so we can make that work group for you. The save and print option, this would allow you to save the changes that you've made, and it would also allow you to print a VIS form for your patient. But recommending if this happens to just be the workflow where you are the physician or the provider ordering the immunization and it will be sent to your clinical staff, then I would simply have the physician or mid-level select this and click Save. But again, we've marked the verbal order, so we're acting as the clinical staff. So our physician has verbally told us this, and we're now going in to place the order. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm ordering the vaccine, which is the DTaP, associated my diagnosis code to it. I want to check for interactions. It's going to ask me, do I want to administer or exclude the vaccine? I definitely want to administer it. I do not want to exclude it at this time. You can select OK. If there were interactions found, I have my settings so they're not displayed, but the settings would be displayed on your screen. And you can select OK. Then you would come over to the vaccine details. What the vaccine details will do is it will automatically ask you, okay, these are all of the vaccines you're giving today. It would say it automatically defaults to check to give the patient a VIS form. If you provide this information in your office, if you have these printouts readily available for your patients, then all you have to simply do is click Document as Given. You need to make sure this happens because your physicians get credit for patient education, and your VIS forms are a form of patient education. As long as you document as given, then your physicians will get credit for this. Otherwise, you can print. If you have maybe, I don't know, six different VIS forms on here, you could click Print All, or you can cancel. You do have the option to go and add to see a Spanish one. As you can see, it then changes to Spanish. Some of the VIS forms didn't come in a different language, so we weren't able to upload them. But these are manually uploaded into the system. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select print, and what this would do is it would print this VIS form for us. But we're going to put this in. All right, in the VIS form, it would actually drop down into where it says the VIS history, right down here. All right, so now here at the top, you'll notice our DTaP loads. I can select the drop-down box, and based on the location I have selected at the top, my lot numbers will appear. I can verify the lot number, select it, and you'll see everything fills in for me. This is a great feature that you guys have not had as we've been in the past. You had to manually put this in each time, which then definitely consumes your time. Here you'll see once you select that lot number, if you needed to add anything that's not listed, you definitely can, which one of the important ones would be the site. Because you can't default the site, you have to select where you provided this immunization for the patient. So we'll do this. All right. If maybe I dropped the vial or I dropped the syringe and it broke, you could come here and you could put date and you could put the reason, and then you could save it as waste. And this would actually document, especially if it was being inventory, you could save it as, hey, I dropped it, I wasted, an immunization. That way it didn't look like something was missing from that particular vial. If you needed to obtain a consent, you could select somebody who you obtained the consent from, obtain the consent from, and what the consent was for. Here, your status, you'll see here it automatically defaults to completed when I select this information. But let's say I partially administered, maybe excluded, maybe the patient refused at the last minute, or maybe it was not administered. You could select the not administered. It would give you options. Well, why did you not administer it? Was the parental decision, patient, religious, other? Then you could select something, and then you'll see this box light up. What you select from this drop-down menu will appear in the box, but you do have the ability to free text as well. All right, the comment and notes, if I wanted to put some comments in here, I could do that as well at this time. Once I have completed this whole process, you'll see your buttons at the bottom. Your save and task, save and print, save and send, and save. You'll also see if once my VIS form drops in here, if I needed to, put it, open the VIS form or print and give it again, maybe something happened and it didn't really print, I could click this box after highlighting it and it would print and you could give it to the patient. The VIS form also saves as a PDF to the patient's encounter. So if you needed to go and maybe you wanted to just click save and document that you gave it to the patient, you could do that, and then you could send it to the patient portal, which a lot of people are pushing to have happen, as that works towards your meaningful use as well. Okay, so your general tab. Before I click this information, I can hop over here to general, and what this will do is actually show the ordering provider. So if you're at a site where maybe you work in a centralized lab area and you're the lab people, maybe they're administering the immunizations, you want to always make sure you have the right ordering provider. So at this point, if you didn't, you could change it before you send it to the registry. Make sure you have the right location sent. This is definitely important for those of you that are floats. As you're floating through the different offices, you always want to make sure you have the right ordering physician and location selected. Here, as long as the patient, when they were checked in, that the insurance was brought over, this information would carry to the right. If you needed to make changes at this time, you could. I don't recommend the clinical staff doing this unless you have verified that this information is in fact not correct. So underneath the vaccine details at this time, we're going to go ahead, and I'm not going to save in task. And as you can tell, this is all the work groups in the system. So I wanted to make sure that I showed this to you. But if your particular physician wanted to maybe send it to a work group, he or she has the ability to do that. All right, so at this time, I am good. I want to go ahead and I want to save and send. If I do save and print, what this will do is it will save the immunizations and it will print any VIS forms. It doesn't print an immunization record, it just prints the VIS form. So this is another way that you can print the VIS. Again, these buttons are used based on the workflow in your office. So everybody may not use this workflow exactly the same. You may have a physician who wants to go in, order it, and save it, or you may have a physician who verbally comes out and tells you as the nurse to go ahead and administer this immunization. Again, it is all about the workflow in your office. So you can click Save and Send once the immunization is complete, that you have documented that you have administered the vaccine. You're going to want to click Save and Send. What that will do is send the immunization to the registry, and it will also update the patient's record. So here it is for today. We'll go ahead and click Save and Send. I will send to the registry. Now, I'm going to hop over to this Orders tab. What will happen is you'll notice you don't see an encounter date for today. Remember when I was discussing with you the refresh option? Like if I maybe did something in the patient's chart, it's not going to update it on every screen because, again, even though these are tabs, they're all associated to the same Orders module. So it's not going to update automatically. You're going to have to refresh it. Once you refresh it, you will see your order number, the performing entity, which is the VIIS, the encounter date, which is what is listed here. The status of the vaccination is at a completed status. That means we have administered it and we have uploaded it to the registry. The provider's name, the description of the immunization, the location in which the vaccination was provided, and the date that we created it. Once that process is complete and you've sent it to the registry, you have completed the order for your immunization. As you open up a new vial and you have a new lot, a new batch, maybe your NDC number has changed, you need to make sure that information gets sent to help@tpmgpc.com so we are able to upload it into the system so that you can easily order your vaccinations without having to put in all the details that you've had to do in the past. This concludes my immunization order training. If you have any questions, please send an email to help@tpmgpc.com. Thank you.